All right, test 4. This is over chapter 4. There are, like I said, 60 questions. Cues, 60 cues. Okay, so part 1 is 1 through 12. And it is going to be verb conjugation. So we've talked about, like up to this point of the test in chapter 4, we've talked about 3 different verbs: ser, estar, and tener. So this is gonna look like is it says conjugate the following verbs based on the subject pronoun given. So it's gonna be like a blank, and then there's gonna be a subject pronoun, and then there's gonna be a verb in the parentheses, and you have to write the conjugation for the verb in the parentheses. So usted for ser is es. Okay. Then you might have something like yo and tener. That's going to be tengo. Okay. So it's just those 3 verbs: ser, estar, and tener. Part 2 is numbers. Okay. Oh boy. That's not going to work. All right. So not the green marker, maybe. I'm going to give you the numeral in, well, numerals don't, I guess they're English, but they're also Spanish. I'm going to give you the numeral, and you have to write it out in the Spanish word. For example, 42. So I'm going to give you the numeral. That's a numeral, and you have to write it out in Spanish. So it's going to be 40 y dos. 42. So just a reminder that, let's see, 16 through 19 and then 21 through 29 have 2 ways of spelling. So you can do it in 3 words or you can do it in 1 word. So like 18 could be 10 y 8 or 18. Okay. Either one is correct. So any way you want to do that. So remember 16 through 19, so 16, 17, 18, 19, and then 21 through 29. All of the other numbers have 1 word. So I think on your homework, let's see, if I had something like 34, it would be 3 words, because you have to say 30 y 4. Okay, you can't combine these, they are individual. It's 30 and 4. Okay. So these are going to be numbers 1 through 100. 1 through 100. It's whatever we did, I think lesson 7 was all those numbers. So we did 1 through 10 in chapter 3, and then, or 1 or 3. And then we did 11 through like a million. But I think I'm only testing you over 1 through 100. So, part 3 is the opposite of this. Okay. So I have given you the Spanish words and you write the English. Numerals are fine, okay? So I might give you something like 14, which means 14. You may write the numeral or you can write the word. Doesn't matter to me. So I'm writing that out. Let's see, in part 3, it's 18 to 22. I think, maybe did I not tell you how many there were? Part 2 is 13 through 17. Part 3 is 18 through 22. Part 3, I'm giving you the Spanish word. You're writing it out in either English or numerals. Part 4 is make the following phrases plural. make the following phrases plural. So I'm going to give you something like gato pequeño. Okay? El gato pequeño, the small cat. But you really don't need to even know what it means. All you have to know is how to make it plural. So if you remember, if a word ends in an O, all we have to do to make it plural is add an S. This is a definite article, L, means the. And to make this plural, we say los. You can't just add S or ES. Okay, so we have los gatos pequeños. Okay, so this is its own thing. These two end in a vowel, so all we have to do is add S's to them to make them plural. If I had something like la casa normal, the normal house. There's the train. Hold on. Okay. So if I have something like la casa normal, we've got this is, you have to memorize this. This becomes las. This is ends in a vowel, so we just have to add an S, so it becomes casas. This word ends in a consonant, which means that we have to add ES to make this plural. So this becomes normales. Okay, so that's all that that section is. That is 23 to 27. So 5 questions, 23 to 27. Then we have part 5, which is telling time. Part 5. Telling time, it is 28 to 32. Okay. I am going to, excuse me. It says, write the times in Spanish in a complete sentence. Include a time expression that indicates the time of day. So I'm going to give you a, I'm going to give you a time, and then I'm going to give you a time of day. So what we have to do is we have to say, it's 2:13. So we say, son las 2:13. Then we have to come up with a time expression that means PM. So this is afternoon, so we say de la tarde. Okay. Let's see. So if I had 1:56 a.m., 1:56 a.m., it would be es la una. We talked about this today in class, that it's got to be una, not uno. And because it's only 1 hour and one is singular, these two words are singular. So now you know that this is the plural of this. This is the plural of this, pretty much. So any hour not 1 o'clock gets son las 2, son las 3, son las 12, son las 10, son las 5. The only one that gets one es la is una, and it has to be es la. And yes, you have to have both parts of these, okay? So we say es la una y 56. Now, 1:56 in the morning, we would say, in America, we would say in the morning. But remember in Spanish that there's another key for morning. And it's like, I think we decided midnight to 6. That is la madrugada. So we say, es la 1:56 de la madrugada. Okay. So remember we said 6 to about noon is de la mañana. Noon to about 5 was going to be de la tarde. And then 5 to, wait, what did I just say? Okay, let me just start over. I forgot what I just said. So we have de la madrugada is like midnight to 6 a.m. Then we have de la mañana, which is like 6 to noon, and then noon to about 5 is de la tarde, and then de la noche is like 5 to midnight. That's about what we say. All right. Okay. So I left this up here because I wanted to show you something else. That remember that when you're like in Spanish, you know, we have this clock. Remember that anything over here is E, but anything over here on this side, if it's the minutes hand, you have the option to do menos. Okay. So if, you know, this is my clock and it's 1:56, so that means my little hand is right here and my big hand is like right here, something like that. So because this minute hand is on this side of the clock, you have the option of using menos instead of E. Remember, I told you that this is a little bit more old school and this is going to be understood by pretty much anybody that you talk to. So, but some of you did menos on your homework, so I'm just going to go ahead and review that real quick. 1:56 would be about here. The minute hand is on this side, so we can use menos. So we can do it like I just did, and we can say, es la 1:56 de la or I think I said de la madrugada. Or what we can do is we round up and we say, son las 2 menos 4. Okay? So when you round up, you round this hour up, and then you count backwards. So there's 4 minutes until 2 o'clock. So we round up to 2, and then we say minus 4. Then we'd have to still say de la madrugada. Okay. To make this, because in the directions it specifically says a complete sentence. This is what makes it a complete sentence. If you just said 2 menos 4, then I would take some points off, okay? A complete sentence means you have to have a verb. So, to have a complete sentence is es la 1:00 da 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 da, or son las 2 da 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 da. Okay, so that means it is 2 minus 4, or it is 1:56, or it is 3:15. Which reminds me, remember that if you have an hour and then the minutes are 15, you have to say y cuarto. Because remember that 15 minutes, there's 4 15-minute sections in an hour. So that's divided into quarters. So 1 15-minute is a quarter, okay? Which means that if you have like, that looks like a 7. So we'll say it was a question mark, but it looks like a 7. So if we said 7:15, we'd have to say son las 7:15. Not 15, has to be cuarto. The other expression is if whatever time you have plus 30 is not 30, it is y media. So 30 minutes is half of an hour. So it's like saying and a half. Okay. What else did I give you guys? I guess that's it. Okay. So that is part 5, 28 to 32. Part 6 is possessive adjectives. This is part 6. It is 33 to 39. And you remember that possessive adjectives, I call them possessive pronouns for a while, because they take the place of a noun, but they also describe, so they kind of are double duty. We had mi, tu, su, nuestro, and su. Those are our possessive adjectives or possessive pronouns, whatever you want to call them. Because they're adjectives, remember that they have to match in their noun in gender and number. Okay, so these right here, me, tu, su, and su, those we really only worry about number. We don't have to worry about gender. However, since this one ends in an O, we have to worry about gender and number. So if I had something like our, well, yes, okay. So let me just show you. This section is going to look like this, and then it's going to have your, formal, libros. Okay. So we want to pick one of these that means your to modify libros. So remember that these two right here both can mean your. This one definitely only means your. This one can mean his, her, or your. So we have to figure out which one we're supposed to use. This says your formal, okay? So this one is informal, so this one is formal. So it's got to be Sue, okay? But we have to make sure, since it's an adjective, that it matches in number with this noun that it's modifying. So this is a plural noun, so this has to be plural. So all we do is add an S. Okay. Yep. Then we've got something like our casas, our houses. So the word for our is nuestro, but this is feminine and plural. So that means that we actually have to pay attention to gender with this one, plus we have to make it plural. So this O changes to an A, and then we add an S. So this becomes nuestras. Okay. So that's all you got to do for that section. Then we have vocab. So 7 and 8, section 7 and 8 are vocabulary. 7 is from English to Spanish. Part 8 is from Spanish to English. Remember that I said you did not have to do numbers as the vocabulary. So the only vocabulary that is going to be on this test is the vocabulary surrounding time expressions like it's noon, it's midnight, on the dot, it's 1 o'clock, it's 2 o'clock. The things I specifically said, hey, highlight these on the page. And then also the locations. So like restaurant, hospital, ice cream parlor, park. So those words are, those are the things that are going to be on vocabulary. There's 5 in each section because there really weren't very many words to pull from. So there's only 5. So it's 5 from English to Spanish and 5 from Spanish to English. Okay. Remember, well, yeah, okay. If it says the in the English part that you're translating to Spanish, you have to include el or la. In the English to Spanish, if the word says like el parque, you can't just write park. You have to write the park because I'm asking you to translate the words or phrases, so that's the phrase that you're translating. So you have to tell me that you know what el or la means as well. Then the last section is 10 questions. It is 51 to 60. That is the translations. Okay? Oh man, my nose is so itchy today. 51 to 60. Translations. Okay. So this is going to cover pretty much everything that we talked about. One of the things, the smaller things that we talked about was telling your age. So if I were going to ask somebody, how old are you? The question would be, ¿Cuántos años tienes? Tienes tú. How old are you? Okay. So that's what that kind of question would look like. If I said, how old is she? It would be, ¿Cuántos años tiene ella? Okay. Because remember that asking someone how old they are, in English we use is or are, like I am 27, I am 32, he is 46, or how old are you, how old is she? But in Spanish we use it, it's a tener expression. So it's like saying, how many years do you have? Okay. So if you had a sentence that said, he is 13 years old, we would say, él tiene, okay, he has 13 años. Okay. You can't leave años out because that is years. So he is translated to él tiene 13 años. Okay. I specifically said in the directions, write the number in Spanish words. So that is a numeral. You can't just rewrite the numeral. You actually have to write out the word like this. So if it's 28 years, you'd say 28. If it's 46 years, you'd say 46. Okay, that kind of thing. So there's that kind of question. We're going to talk about locations. We're going to talk about characteristics, telling time still, having something. So you might have a sentence like, Rosa y Pablo. Oops, how about this? And Pablo are in the park, or at the park. Okay. So we want to say Rosa y Pablo. So we say Rosa y Pablo are in the park. On the last test, we did is and are and that kind of thing. You've got to be aware of what the sentence means, okay? Because some of you are just going to go, oh, are has got to be son, right? Because a lot of you on the last test said es instead of está for location. So this sentence is talking about a location because they are in the park. That's a place. So which verb do we use for location? We use estar. So because it's Rosa y Pablo, that's like saying ellos. So we use the conjugation that goes with ellos. So that's going to be, actually I need the están. Got to use estar because it's location. This is like saying ellos, and so we use the ellos construction. Están. Then we say in, which is en el parque. Okay, that's it. You might have something like, my parents are smart. My parents are smart. Okay. Are we talking about a location or condition? No. Being smart is generally an intrinsic characteristic. Okay. So that means we have to use the verb ser. Now, my parents. Remember, you don't really know the word for parents, but remember that when you have a grouping like parents, grandparents, kids, sons and daughters, if there's a boy involved, then we use the masculine construction. So parents is going to be padres. So it doesn't mean my dad's. This is talking about parents, okay? Because we use the masculine form, the masculine plural form. So my is me, but this is plural, so this has to be plural. This is again like saying ellos, so we use son, because that's how you conjugate ser for ellos. Then the word for smart is inteligente. But again, this is plural. This noun, this subject is plural. This adjective goes back and describes that, so it's got to match this one in gender and number. This adjective ends in an E, so we really don't need to worry about gender. All we have to do is worry about number. So plural, this has to be plural, ends in a vowel, add an S. Okay? Then you might have a sentence like, history class is at 1:30. Okay. So remember, we talked about this with identification. You have to say la clase de and then the subject. Remember, clase is feminine. All right. So if you say el clase, you're going to get points off. You've got to know by this point that clase is feminine. So we say la clase de historia. Okay? You cannot say historia clase. It's not how that works. La clase de historia, the class of history. Then instead of saying like it is 1:30, we want to say it's at 1:30. So we say es, and then we say a. Then you have to have the las. You still have to have that las before the sorry. In this case, it's going to be la because it's 1 o'clock. But you still have to have that article, either la for 1 o'clock or las for any other time. You can't just say es a una y media. So you have to say es a la una y media. Okay? This is what I'm talking about right there. You still have to have that. If this was, let's say 8:45, you could say la clase de historia es, still es, because you're talking about what time is the class, es a las 8:40 9:05. Or a las 9:45. Okay, 9 minus 15, or a quarter of an hour. All right. So the point is, do not leave this out. I think some of you were tempted to do that on your homework. ¿Qué más? All right. If you're going to ask what time is something, what time is Bible class? What time is Bible class? You would say, ¿a qué hora? What time is? ¿A qué hora es? Okay. Then once again, you can't say Biblia clase. You have to say la clase de subject. Es la clase de Biblia. Okay. A lot of you guys have been putting lowercase b's, but we capitalize the Bible. It is important. It is crucial. It is definitely something that we want to respect. So we keep this as a capital letter. Okay. All right. What else was I going to tell you about this? Oh, just in case you haven't figured it out, all the tests are going to build on each other. So even though the class descriptions names were like a chapter or two ago, you're still, I expect you, the book expects you to be memorizing vocabulary and to have it memorized. So you might want to go back and look at the class stuff like science class, history class, Spanish class, English class, PE, physical education class. So vocabulary is going to build on each other. So I'm going to start using all kinds of vocabulary. Like I won't use anything that I don't think you know, but any vocabulary from any chapter that we've already covered is fair game on tests. Okay. What about they? Or no, let's do this. Y'all have 7 cats. A lot of cats. I think I had 7 cats at one time. But we had a really big house and a big yard, and then it was okay. So there you go. All right. I think, yes, in these directions I said include the subject pronouns in your answer. So y'all is ustedes, because it's you plural, U-S-T-E-D-E-S. Have, the verb for have is tener. To conjugate it for ustedes, we say tienen. And then once again, the directions say write out the numbers and don't leave them in their numerals. So we have to say siete gatos. Okay, pretty simple. You might have something like we are sick. We are sick. So we is nosotros. Sick, you have to think about sick. Sick is a temporary condition, right? If you have the flu, you have the flu for like a week and then it's over. We hope. So since it's a temporary condition, we have to use estar for this, all right? So we say nosotros estamos. Then we say the word for sick is enfermo. But once again, this adjective describes us or we. That's plural. We is me and someone else, or me and multiple other people. So it's plural. So this adjective has to be plural. Okay? It's going to be nosotros estamos enfermos. I think that's all. Make sure that if you had something like She is sick. You would say ella está. Ella está, and then this is obviously not going to be plural, but because it's a girl, you have to change the O to an A. Ella está enferma. Right? Go see you want to say hi? Here, look, I brought you a piece of bread. Come here. Up. Up. Come on. Yes, up. Come on. Oh, yes, a good boy. Gentle. Oh, there's such a good boy. I knew that I'd be able to get him if I had some food on the table. Hey, want this? Oh, I gotta go chew this piece. Alright, so there's your test. This is translations. You do have another extra credit section. I don't have the book right in front of me, but just know that basically your extra credit questions are always going to come from that first page. Oh, you want the rest? You ready for the rest? Your extra credit questions are always going to come from that first cultural thing, like right at the beginning of the chapters. It's like when it says chapter 4, there was like a little thing, I think it was like Puerto Rico or Bolivia or something. So that's fair game for test or extra credit culture questions. And then at the end of every lesson, there's a nota cultural. And you'll read those, and then those are also fair game for extra credit questions. So at the end of every lesson, and then that first little passage at the beginning of the chapters. Do you want some more? Want this? Oh, sweet boy. It's kind of chewy. All right, you want this whole thing? He doesn't trust me to not take it back from him, so whenever I give him like a big piece of something, he always takes it outside. He's just chilling outside, eating his piece of bread. All right, so there you go. That's your test. And let me know if you have questions, and I'll see you guys on Monday.